Hello, and welcome to part two of my comic book collection. So, I found another box of my comics underneath the first box that you just saw in the last vlog. The last you saw in part one of my comics. So, I decided this one's a little bit different. This has more comic books, but also has a few other surprises that I like to show off for you. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, here's part two. This is the second box that I had, that my mom had saved of some of my comics and some other stuff I collected over the years. This is a little bit different. This has got comic books, it's got some other stuff. So let's look into box number two. Okay, so start with a stack. There's somebody's going to get a ruin because they're not protective paper, but we'll do one stack at a time here in each box. Okay. So, stack one. I have, well, let's do these two at this time. Okay, so let's do it this way. We're thinking how to do this. Okay, so back in the 90s, they did a couple of things. You saw in part one, I showed off how they killed off Superman and brought him back. Also, but they also DC did their version of killing of taking up one of their main characters and bringing them back, which is called Nightfall, which they did, which was other one was Breaking of the Bat. And what they like to do is they'll put out a series of comic books to tell that whole story, and then what they do is, and then they take them and then they put them in what are called compendiums, which is nothing more fancy than saying a giant graphic novel composed of different comic books. And well, I have both. This one are the comic books that broke Batman. This is the one where Batman healed up and went after Bane. Okay. Then, of course, there came the Batman Chronicles. And notice I also have a weird cover to Detective Comics Batman, which DC stands for Detective Comics. And another Batman one. Looks like this one has Two-Face on it. Right there. Then DC also put out what they call annuals. So I have two of those right here. Batman annuals. They did a lot of movie crossovers. DC especially did a lot of movie crossovers back in the 90s with their comics. So we have, of course, Superman Alien. They always created that ultra powerful character trying to go up against Superman. So we've got Superman the Man of Tomorrow with this guy called the Alpha Centurion. Another one of the comics that makes up Nightfall, which would be in the first two books I showed. We have, so another Nightfall comic. Bunch of Nightfall ones, actually. So here's two more of the Nightfall series. Of course, here's book number 8 of the Contagion Detective Comic Batman series. We saw another one of those. I don't know what's something. And then, of course, here's a Marvel X-Men. They put X-Men in the future, so this is X-Men 2099 AD. 29 AD, yeah. Then, another comic book I collected was not from Marvel or DC. It was from a comic book company back then called Valiant Comics, and they created two comic books. We have The Visitor And we have another visitor, so I have 2 of the visitor series from them. DC created anti-heroes. Marvel did too. An anti-hero was a hero that wasn't really a hero and wasn't really a villain. You didn't know what he was going to do depending on the day. One of the most well-known ones, and there's actually going to be a movie based off of him, off of this one, was called Lobo. From what I hear, the movie's going to have Jason Momoa play that character, which is Lobo, which I'm kind of curious to see. So that's stack 1. Let's go to stack number 2. Because the next one is going to be interesting because it's not comic book really, but it is part of what I collected. So then, of course, we've got Superman and Impulse. And another X-Men. But Marvel didn't just create X-Men and Deadpool and Avengers. They created a whole, back in the day, they created a whole slew of superheroes. So we've got, of course, Excalibur. Uncanny X-Men. Sometimes you get a freebie, so we've got, of course, DC Zero, which is a freebie. Sometimes they put these out to see what the public will think about it. And comic books didn't just come out in the 80s and 90s. They came out, I think, as early as the 50s, if I remember correctly, and what they called the golden age of comic books. This is just a bit of it. A bit of what it is. This is book 2. So, book 2 of 4. I don't even know if I don't think I have the other 3. Of course, then we've got another Excalibur comic. If you watch the second Deadpool movie, you heard this name come out as Deadpool's trying to create a team of superheroes. And he called it, it's called an X Factor. And they kind of, no. Here's the reason why they called it. They used it. Here's an Amazing Spider-Man. If you see a price tag on it, at one point I was actually trying to sell some of my comic books, and I think I tried to sell them at like a rummage sale type deal. And then, of course, there's something called graphic novels, which is a thicker comic book that either was made up of different comics or longer story. And, of course, this is one of them. Now, what I want to show you next is part of what I collected in my 20s, on top of comic books that I collected since I was in high school. But in the 20s, I got into the craze of trading card games. And so, before I do that, this is one I actually definitely want to really talk about. So, in part 1, you saw some of my signed comics. Here's another one of my signed comics, which is another one, which is a thicker graphic novel, which is composed of all the comic books that kill a Superman. But what makes this special are 2 things. 1, it's signed. I don't know if you can see it, but I'll put it close up. You can see it's signed. And 2, it came with a promo card. And here's that promo card. And now, part of what I did in my 20s was I got caught up in what's called the trading card craze, the trading card game. So, of course, you had a whole bunch of them. Of course, there's always Pokemon, but I was never a big Pokemon fan. I do have my favorite Pokemon, but I wasn't a fan where I, went out and tried to collect every Pokemon card I could get my hands on. I did that with another series called Yu-Gi-Oh! And back in the early 90s, there was a TV show called Yu-Gi-Oh! That aired on Saturday mornings. It used to be on UPN, which became WB, and then which is now called Paramount. And Yu-Gi-Oh! The animated series was actually kind of like the old 80s shows like He-Man and She-Ra and G.I. Joe, which were designed really to sell toys. Well, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was designed to sell trading cards. Because the way it would work is if they would premiere a card that hasn't been out yet on the stores yet in on the show, you guarantee you that it'll show up in the stores. So I have 2 binders full of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I also have 2 decks that I created out of them, but I have no idea where those are. I love to find them because I love looking back at these. And I'm not sure how many of these are worth. I think, let's see if I can find something in here. See if we can find, I think somewhere in one of these binders I have cards that are, I mean, none of these cards are actually used in tournaments if there's any Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments ever left. I don't even know. I used to do Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments back then too. I think it's in this other binder. I have a couple of rare cards. In here. Of course, yeah, I do. Don't have any. I also used to have some band cards. I don't know what happened with. I wonder what happened to them. I used to have all 3. I mean, of course, I'll show you a couple of them. Some of them, my favorite ones. Here, if you can tell, I'll try to get in a good pitch of it. Here is the Winged Dragon of Ra, one of the Egyptian god cards. I have 2 of those. I never got all of the cards that I'll show you. That came up with every one of these cards. I would love to get my hands on them back then. Because the rule in the game was, if you had every card that made up Exodia the Forbidden One in your hand, you won instantly. No one has I've ever known actually had, that I've known have actually had that one. So most of these cards have appeared in the comic books over the years. And I've noticed that a lot of people have been posting some of the duels from the original show on Facebook and on TikTok and whatnot. So, yeah. Okay. That's those. What else I got in here? Oh, we got another whole stack of comics, so let's look at those. Come on. Get out of here. So here's another Lobo graphic novel. Then, of course, I mentioned in the first video that they did make Beavis and Butthead comics, so here's another Beavis and Butthead comic. DC had a whole bunch of characters, so we have Mongrel, and of course Hellblazer. A couple more Excalibur comic books, as you can see. Another Hellblazer. So yeah, but what I want to show you is another thing I collected over the years, and I don't know if any of you Gen Xers remember things called Mad Magazine and Trek Magazine. Well, guess what I did? I collected those. These were satire magazines that you could buy, and I know one of them was actually made into a show, but you know, they were satire magazines. They took movies, TV shows, pop culture from back in the day, and made fun of it. So of course, you have Crockett Goes Batty. But my big collection was always Mad magazines. I loved Mad magazines. So of course, here's one that's making fun of 2 movies, Crocodile Dundee 2 and Rambo 2. And then we've got one that supports our troops back then. Then they also had what they called the Collector Series. So, of course, they always called them Super Special Fall. I mean, look at the price of this. It's just $3.50 cheap. But this is 17 Mad, and it had stickers. It had, at some point they had areas where you fold the thing in. You fold one thing and you get a whole different picture in the other one. And then you saw, which was kind of neat. Here's another collector series of Mad. And I mean, I also had Mad books that were smaller versions of stuff that were that. Here's one making fun of Howard Stern. One that says, proofreader wanted. Super special. Games and puzzles. Which is really not games and puzzles. Mad Gross Out. We've always made these special ones that had different things on it. It's one that made fun of different things like TV shows and other pop culture things. Oof, this is going to be a classic. This is from March of '96. This is a politically themed issue from back then. So it made fun of the political candidates and other things like that. There's one that, congratulations class of '96, which obviously I actually graduated from. I think I took some of these to camp with me once, and that's why my name's written on this one. But, you know, this one, too. No, I don't know how much any of these are worth. But they still make these. You could find these on Amazon. Talking about that, you know, here's another one. And, let's see. Yeah, most of the rest of this box is all Mad magazines. So, I'm not going to go through the rest of these. Surprised that my mom kept these. I'm actually kind of glad my mom kept these, to be exact. But that was just some of the stuff I collected as a kid, as a teenager, and even as an adult. So, yeah. I put these away. I mean, try to keep them from getting ruined. The ones that, like the Mad magazines, the ones that didn't quite get in the protective cases. If you notice, a lot of my comic books are in protective cases, and that's because I want to keep them in good condition, pristine condition to be exact. Plus, those are special cases that also prevent acid from getting in them, because acid to comic is like the evil of comic, is the kryptonite to comic books. So, that's basically what's in box number 2. And that's all I can find here of them, unless there's more in the closet. I don't know. We haven't gone through the closet yet. Today is the day we're going to go through some of the rest of this room. For the time being, I'm going to say a couple things, so let's recenter myself here. First off, if you collect something and you stop, that's fine. But a lot of times, like I like to say, these things not only might have a monetary value, even if it's small, but they also, more importantly, they hold memories of my past and my childhood and my teen years and my early adult years. because I'm going to be 50 in November this year, of my life back then, you know? So opening these up, because I forgot what was in these, you got to see some of what I forgot I had. I'm actually kind of glad my mom saved half. As you heard in the first one, I stupidly sold half of my collection for a measly $100. Something I still regret to this day. Because by now some of those are probably worth a lot of money, and I'm kind of SOL on that now. I can't go back to where I bought them and see where I sold them to and see if they're still there. Because chances are they either sold through the whole collection or they put it in storage or did something with it to make room for more stuff. So with that, I'm just going to say keep on collecting. Peace out, stay frosty, and I'll see you in the next one.